What's up, YouTube? James Polk here. Apologies that I have to reshoot this deck profile all over again. You know, it's been a long night, and Season 7 has come to an end, and oddly enough, about how the gold matches were doing, I'd say it's literally balanced because Gold 3 is the final standings and the ranking with Solfachords of all things. You know, it is what it is. Whether if it's getting more wins in and some losses in, at least all I can say is pretty much did the best I could, just get some fun out of it though. So why did I choose Solfachords out of all of this? Because it's literally the first Pendulum deck ever to be learned ever since the life and times of Counter Draco Pals IRL when I first had them. And in this new Master Rule, I originally thought to myself I would never be able to learn Pendulum again, but truth be told, this is literally the first Pendulum deck in return for me to discover, and I thought to myself, wow, like this is something else. So, the gimmick of this deck, the lower the level, the higher the scale, while the higher the level, the lower the scale. You definitely don't want the scales to be too close, but you want the scales to be far out so you can easily pendulum summon a whole lot. So, with that being said, let's get to this list. 3 Cutia. She's the Stratos of Solfachord monsters. While you have an even scale, all Solfachord pendulums gain 100 times their own scale for the boost. 2 Dreamia. She's an extender as long as you have a Solfachord pendulum in your scale. And then while you have an odd scale, Dreamia is the saving grace of card effects for Solfachord monsters. And anyone can play 2 or 3. I find 2 to be the right number for it because 3 can be sometimes cloggy, but at the same time, it's where if you have a starter and an extender, you should be fine in a pretty good position. Double Elitia. She's the MVP of all lower level Solfachords. When it comes to Elitia, while you have an even scale, no battle damage involving all Solfachord pendulums, including herself. And then, if this card is normal or special, she is literally Yaksha of Solfachords. Target 1 spell trap your opponent controls, return it to the hand. Triple Fancia. This was one of the last minute decisions upon Season 7 to make. I said to myself it was either 2 or 3 Fancia, so I stuck with the 3rd copy. So, while you have an odd scale in your zone, Fancia is the saving grace of battles involving Solfachord monsters. And then during your main phase, she is literally Heavy Metal Foes Electromite, as in add 1 Solfachord pendulum from main deck to extra deck, which is insanely cracked. And then the 1-ofs, Gracia, Angelia, and Butia. Gracia, while you have an even scale in your pen zone, all Solfachord gains the benefit of Armades effects of monsters. And then while Angelia is on board, once you have an odd scale, all of your Solfachord monsters benefits the Armades effects of spell traps. So basically, if you have Gracia and Angelia together on board, these two benefits the entire archetype, not counting the link, as Armades. Gracia's other ability is, if this card is normal or special, she is the Stratos of Solfachord spells and traps. And then Angelia here, during your main phase, which is the cost to activate the effect, by the way. The whole entire resolution is tribute 1 Solfachord Pendulum Monster, even if it's face down. And if you do, special 1 Solfachord Pendulum Monster from your deck whose Pendulum Scales is 2 higher or 2 lower than that monster. Straight from the deck except Angelia. And then Butia here. Her quick effect is you can target 1 effect monster your opponent controls, or if you have an even scale, you target a face-up card in general your opponent controls, spell trap included. The lingering effect is first chance the card ends up leaving the field, it ends up banished instead of going to the graveyard. And then once per turn at the start of the damage step, if this card battles a monster with equal or higher attack than the lowest scale times 300 in that zone, destroy that monster. In other words, if I basically have the boss monster, which we will see, Butia's construct ability is live. And then speaking of the bosses, 2 Kulias, the boss of Solfachords, you can special summon this from your hand by attributing 2 Pendulum monsters, not just Solfachord, but 2 Pendulum monsters in general. Each affect a Kulia once. Target 1 face-up card your opponent controls, or up to 2 if you have an odd scale, spells and traps included. Negate its effects until the end of your opponent's turn. That effect be catching a lot of people off guard, and it's insanely strong. And then when an effect monster, or when an effect of a monster on the field is activated with an equal or lower attack than the highest scale in the zone times 300, I can have the option to destroy that monster. So in other words, Draco Berserker of the Tenyi, only if I have scales 1 and 8 immediately live from the get-go. No close range scales. And then the scale effects remain the same. Like, they all share the same thing. Scales 5 through 8, they share the same thing. Pendulum summons of your Solfachord pendulums can't be negated. So that means no Solemn Brigade, no Horn of Heavens in any shape or form. And then scales 1 through 4 share the same thing. Your opponent cannot activate a spell trap or monster effect when your Solfachord pendulum is being pendulum summoned. So basically, this is the magical meltdown of Solfachord archetypes. And then your hand traps, 2 Droll, overperform way too well. 2 Ghost Ogre, Ghost Ogre is insane. And then 1 Bell. I felt like Bell is pretty much out of that format now because of Fluwandereeze. And the fact that we never received Brendan in red, I believe it was. No, there was Brendan in red in this game. I was going to say they never received Brendan lost. So that means we still have the potential to use Ghost Bell on Brendan in red for that matter. But the realest reason with the 1 Bell is because Fluwandereeze exists now. And then Pankratops, if we don't have any Solfachord control to keep this game going, Pankratops can get the job done. Spell lineup: Raigeki, Feather Duster, Reborn. If you are wondering why Reborn in a Solfachord Pendulum deck, bring back Pankratops to keep the Dino control going by himself until we can get the right combo pieces. And then double copies of Tactics. The only time Tactics ever came up is literally 1 or 2 times only, and both of those times were take control of 1 monster your opponent controls without target, which is nice. The rest of the effects never came up. 3 Elegance. You'd rather see this card at all times. Activate one of those effects hard once on Elegance. Add 2 cards, 1 odd, 1 even scale from zones to extra, Pot of Greed. Pretty good. And by the 2 cards offering a 3rd effect, doesn't gotta be Solfachords. The 2nd effect, which is the one we rather do the most. Add 1 Solfachord Pendulum monster from hand to extra that face up complete your scales Solfachord style. One odd, one even scale. And in the first effect, place one Solfachord pendulum from deck to scale, which is insanely nice. And then the one scale, this used to be two during testing. I found out that one is like literally a lot better. And then as for the scale, apply those effects in sequence based on the number of Solfachord pendulums with different names, including the scales. 3 or more, return one card, doesn't gotta be Solfachord, from scale to hand, and if you do, place one Solfachord from extra deck to scale. 5 or more Solfachords, special one pendulum, Solfachord pendulum from your hand regardless of level. And 7 or more, if we somehow manage to do that, which literally never happens, it is literally Rangominiad of face-ups. As in, blow up all face-up cards your opponent controls. And then Harmonia. This is the field spell you want to protect at all times. Activate 3 effects, and those 3 effects are each effect once. The first effect is literally Oath Dragon Magician of Solfachords. Add one face-up Solfachord Pendulum monster from extra deck to hand. And then secondary effect, increase the Pendulum Scale of a Solfachord card in your zone by its level this turn. So basically, it will always be scale 9. And then the third effect is, if you somehow control 3 Solfachords with 3 different odd or 3 different even scales, does not target, destroy one card your opponent controls. 2 Wavering Eyes and 1 Ignite Reload. The Reload used to be the third copy of Wavering Eyes. I really don't see myself with a third copy of it. Just wanted to make up some space for it. And Reload can sometimes did its wonders, like half of the time maybe. I don't know. This card lets you fix your brick hands and turn it into pluses in terms of a +1. The turn you use the reload, you can't do no draw cards. Sure, it conflicts with Talents' draw 2 or Elegance' draw 2, but at the same time, we rather get the search going, just like Wavering Eyes be doing. Because any given time, if we play against Pendulum matchups in general, if we see Wavering Eyes, we are literally winning this game, and make sure that Wavering Eyes will be the last thing of yours activated, just so you can take advantage of it. And then the one call by, if you are wondering the one call by, it's the fact that I am a TCG player myself, and I do not want to dishonor the challenge myself. And then traps, Pendulum Reborn, literally reborn your Pendulum monster from your graveyard or special from extra deck. And the only time you rather use Pendulum Reborn in any situation as of your opponent's turn most of the time is either A, Gracia for the Stratos effect of spell traps, B, Cutia for the Stratos effect of monsters, or C, Elitia, just so that if they have a set spell trap before reaching end phase, you can return that set spell trap back to the hand, which is nice. Double Evenly Match, 1 Musica, activate one of those effects based on the scales I control, and a hard ones on Musica. Odd scale, special 1, odd scale Solfachord from extra, even scale, same thing but even, and then even and odd together, target one card your opponent controls, kill it. Red Reboot, heavily invested against back row heavy decks. And then Solfachord Formal, this is one of the counter traps that actually does not have negation on it. Interesting. While you have a Solfachord cards in your scales, when your opponent activates a spell trap card or a monster effect, shuffle one face-up Pendulum monster from your extra deck into the main deck, Odd Eyes Vortex style. Then apply all of those effects. Not one, but all of it. Pendulum monsters I control are towers only for that effect, not everything. They are towers for that one effect, as well as cards in your pendulum zones cannot be killed or banished by that effect. And then the extra deck, the Charmer package leading to the access. Hita was made not versus Salamangreats, but against Sue ships. Hita beginning the job done. When, on some occasions, to get the Dreamia search. Also, this card come up too many times. Area wasn't seen as much. And then Lina, this was made once or twice at the very least. And then Celine, this was made on a very rare basis. And then Access, we have too many attributes, self-explanatory on the whole entire Charmer package. And then IP Masquerena, this card comes up on some occasion as well. And then Phoenix, back row removal is nice. Abomination, this is literally one of your best Link 4s if I chose not to go for the Charmer routes. Because so much removal in today's game is insanely good. Especially if you have IP on board along with a different Link 2. First chance your opponent is about to destroy something, Shotgun and Masquerena, go into Abomination just so that you can blow up one of their cards as soon as the effect resolves. And then Avramax, IP into Avramax is really strong, especially where in one of my matchups against Black Wings, whenever he had Blackwing Towers, I could just literally make Avramax and then just literally get over it by its big boost. Same with Access Code for getting a big boost as well. And then 3 Grand Solfachord Musea, 2 Shatter Foils, and 1 Glossy. 2 Pendulums to make it in general, not just Solfacords, but 2 Pendulum monsters in general to make it. During your main phase, you can add 1 Pendulum from hand to extra deck face up, and 1 face up Pendulum from extra to hand. As long as one of them has an odd scale, one of them has even, and vice versa. Basically, Musea is the one who trades Pendulum Scales. And it doesn't gotta be Solfacords in terms of trading scales. And then the other effect is, when you Pendulum summon a Solfachord Pendulum monsters, you can target one of them, add 1 Solfachord Pendulum monster from deck to hand whose level equals the Pendulum Scale of that monster. And the best extra deck monster, I literally changed the last minute as the Spice card, and it is the best extra deck monster that isn't the Solfacords ever been played, and I still play it since Counter Draco Pal format. Ignister Prominence, the Blasting Draco Slayer. Now, you're probably wondering, how am I going to make Ignister? Good question. That would be either of the Ghost Girl tuners, as well as Gracia as the non-target or non-tuner Pendulum. At the same time, you have other quick maths to make it. So, Ghost Girl tuners, either one, as well as a 4 and a 1. So, level 3 tuner, level 4, level 1, and both are Pendulums. That is Ignister Prominence. Now, the Draco Slayer ability is extremely irrelevant because I used to play Counter Draco Pal IRL back then when it first dropped. But the realest reason of Ignister in this is because you can target 1 Pendulum monster anywhere or 1 card in the Pendulum zone, it doesn't matter whose, which is the cost. The resolution is kill it, and if you do, does not target, shuffle 1 card back into the deck, which is extremely amazing. And Ignister Prominence, this card, it used to be that Hero Link 2, but that Hero Link 2 never even came up at all. So I cut the Hero Link 2 for the Ignister Prominence, and I'm glad I chose the Synchro as of the very last minute throughout the whole entire remaining of Season 7. And yeah, that's got to do it. James Polk speaking on this unique Solfachord deck profile for you guys. Be sure to like, comment, subscribe, and share. Hit that notification bell to keep yourself constantly updated, and I'll catch you guys next time.